Obligatory bit of Gen AI and cats, because that used to be a thing. I'm Shaun, I work for the DVSA, and I like cats and serverless.
Hello, I'm Anna. Nice to be here today. I also work at the DVSA. I'm a lead developer on our payments API. So any payments coming into the agency come through our API. And I also spend a lot of my time making that dog not chase that cat. And I would not trust that dog with a fancy camera. Different kind of dog.
But fortunately, don't worry. I didn't persuade Anna we were going to do a sort of Vim, Emacs, cats, dogs thing. So who's the DVSA? It's the other Welsh agency that belongs to the Department for Transport in Swansea, responsible for a lot of things and a fair few transactions. So I was pleased when Jan said he started in 2016 because I felt we were quite early adopters of serverless, winning awards back in 2018 and 2017 for our MOT reminders service. So we've been doing serverless at the DVSA for quite a while now. There's a lot of learnings over that time, a lot of changes over that time. And we were quick to realize there were a lot of advantages to serverless. We were also quick to learn that there were cold starts in Java. So we've kind of been on the journey for a little while now. Our vision is very much kind of build consistent, high quality, cloud native software that has a low maintenance factor. And low maintenance factor is very kind of key when you're trying to kind of build this stuff on civil service wages. So what does serverless allow us to do? Serverless allows us to scale, we know that. So our MOT history service, if you go to check MOT history, service.gov.uk, there's about 55 million events that go through that every month. It's often the second rated on the Gov.uk homepage. It's quite a lot, and it's just a kind of simple setup service doing some kind of ingestion from Northern Ireland data, series of kind of lambdas to pull the data back from an RDS proxy and display that history back out. But a vehicle can have a differing kind of amount of history, of course, from no history because it's less than 3 years old to a ream of data up until you no longer have to take an MOT. So the architecture was built to kind of scale to the traffic, but also kind of optimize that payload that was coming back onto the web page as quick as possible, trying to do that in the kind of space of getting the request out as quick as we can. Oh, I think I've jumped 2 slides now. Sorry. We learned as well, Server allows us to take our existing setups. We now run kind of some of those setups in containers, but breaking them apart, moving them into serverless projects meant that we could do much more granular deploys. We can get parts of the application out there much quicker, build CI/CD pipelines, they get things out. So we've certainly done that in one project here, broken out some of the functionality inside the app seamlessly to the end user, not a micro front end kind of affair, but doing the progress in the background for processing bus timetables, doing the process in the background for aggregating address data. And we keep kind of doing that pattern with other kind of elements of the application. We've done that in MOT as well. We've got cameras in garages project going at the moment where all the kind of processing is out in Lambdas in a separate kind of area, the main app where the MOT testers serve things, running the API in the container. We're also starting to use AI in vehicle operator licensing. We're also building intelligent document processing pipelines So again, a kind of asynchronous process running in Lambdas in the background, talking to Bedrock data automation, talking to straight to Bedrock and straight to an LLM as well. Because as Jan pointed out earlier, doing that stuff, you have to be asynchronous when the models take a time to return any data. So it's allowed us to separate out that deployment process, hide some things around in the background in applications that were historically kind of very monolithic. And I'll hand over to Anna to talk about how it's changed the monolith that we used to use for card payments.
Thank you. No one is probably surprised to hear that there's some legacy in the code base all the way in government. So on the payment service, we have, and we're getting rid of them, quite a few EC2 servers, what we call our workers. We had a load of them, and they're all running on cron schedules. So every minute, they're checking the database, they're checking through the API, is there any work to do? And some of the EC2s, they're working flat out all the time. And some of them, they'll be lucky if they've got something to do twice a week, something like that. But they're still up there, they're running all the time. We're having to maintain them, keep an eye on them, keep them patched. So, wrong way again. We're in the process of replacing some of them. We've got some of the way there, and we've gone for lambdas and queues. So that means we've got event-based. So every time that there's something that actually needs processing, it can be processed. We haven't got things just waiting for work to do that we're paying for, that we're using. Every time a payment comes in, we've got an event, we need to do some post-processing on it. We can put it through EventBridge, we can send it to Lambda, we can use the queues, and then it can only hit the API or hit the database if it absolutely needs to. I keep going the wrong way. This also gives us a much smaller developer footprint. It's a lot easier to maintain. We're actually only maintaining the core business logic that we have to do on these events. We're not having to maintain all the infrastructure or the patching and things like that. We can deploy quickly, we can test quickly. We don't have to have weird integration tests that have to wait for cron jobs to kick in and go. We can just trigger the event. So it's made it a lot easier to develop, to test, to release, and to keep up to date and patched and a lot more secure. So overall, it's going really, really well and helped massively simplify the complexity in the application.
So that whole kind of execution model of just using things when they need to be used is also quite good for extremely low traffic services. So we have 450 heavy goods vehicle testing stations. Allows us to provide a smaller service so you can go and find your nearest one, which doesn't have a lot of traffic and doesn't therefore cost a lot to run. We can still build out an architecture where we can get them to update the data based on events and sending that information across to them to update on a weekly basis. But also, because there's no traffic, the stuff is only running when we need it to run. We also have other kind of somewhat more larger projects to meet our legislative goals that maybe don't send a lot of data. So recently, we've started to take more advantage of step functions for transporting data across the data pipeline. And again, kind of gives us that lower maintenance effort, lower kind of traffic site where we can't necessarily afford to have people working on it all the time. We also integrate between systems with serverless. So integrating between Azure and AWS, using event patterns there to kind of pass data backwards and forwards. Also kind of syncing data, which hasn't been that easy. So separating out data, think carefully before you do that for sure. And maybe start to kind of think about how you have to move data around, especially if you're moving it around between lots of multiple parts. We use data to power our mobile devices. Shout out to the search team. I know there's one in the audience who empower our staff by building backends for mobile services. And again, that allows you obviously to kind of extend that, bring on another API, extend that very, very kind of easily and quickly by developing small microservice-based APIs to deliver data out to the front end. So during my time in the DVSA, that's grown. It's started off with a kind of handful of features, got more and more and more, recently kind of encompassing for the driver's pleasure, finding them at the roadside. So kind of behind serverless, behind the mobile, there's a backbone of serverless services. It's hard to say. So serverless kind of bridges all the gaps. Switchable part, right? Serverless bridges all the gaps between old and new bits, but not always in AWS as well.
Speaking of old, we've got some old legacy for our driver examiner services, and thankfully we've got some modern as well. So we're able to integrate those quite easily, which is very nice and helps out the examiners on the road with their iPad applications. And it can all go feedback into the legacy stack that does what it needs to do. So in some places we have it running alongside legacy and traditional server-based applications. And we also do similar for the theory test application, again using Microsoft Dynamics. So Kano's helped us with this, and they were making sure that we glued those elements together, making it accessible on the front end, very serverless, very scalable, and then backed with some legacy and server-based that we're always looking to improve and work on.
I think the other kind of key point around building out serverless and getting used to kind of working in a serverless way is it helps you with kind of consistency and ease of oversight. So another shout out, Matt Bell, one of our leads, has done the next incarnation of our serverless data pattern. So we've got a consistent approach to building out using modern tools. We've got ES-Build in there. We've got Biome for linting. We've got baked in kind of CI/CD patterns. We're using Lambda Power Tools, documentation as code. And Matt's been telling me about some fancy Rust runner for Jest, so we can get our unit tests running very quickly. And that's a pattern then that we can take and we can repeat in all of the microservices that we're building. So that's a lot of work going on at the moment, is converting some of our circa 2017 Java services into a kind of more modern stack, easier to kind of deal with, easier to onboard team members and get those kind of feeling of it's a joy to work in this stack. Serverless kind of also allows us to obviously have less support and less kind of infrastructure colleagues doing the tasks that they don't like doing, using Packer to build AMIs, using patching tools, reviewing AWS Security Hub reports, going through lots and lots of tasks that the AI agents will take over and run in the future, hopefully. But they're kind of now shifting their focus, especially in our technical support services, to looking at telemetry, looking at observability. Anna's project has built a lot of good dashboards, so you can have a lot of good visibility, tracing those lambdas through using the power tools and using X-ray. You can see what's going on in each part of the application, each part of the stack. You can see what's coming up, what's coming down. We're working around kind of building those boundaries around the serverless as well, using AWS accounts more frequently, so we can have things like ephemeral environments in non-production, not have to worry about them blowing them away, spinning them up, blowing them away. Working on things like Aurora serverless, again, from a sort of cost and a support perspective, We don't have to keep maintaining that daily job that we do at the moment of bringing up a database so we've got one ready and warm for development purposes or even in production. We've got, as I say, kind of CI/CD practices with serverless. That means we have release engineers that's job now is to press a button. We still have a governance process. That means we need to obviously ensure that everybody knows what's happening in terms of our deploys. But it is as simple as merge a release, please, watch it run through the pipelines and approve it when it gets to the pre-production and the production pipelines. So all in all, kind of Lambda created, reInvent 2024, 11 years later, lots of lessons to be learnt, but still a very, very powerful tool for saving us money, making things easy to do, making things smaller, more manageable, making the developers hopefully more happy. So thank you very much. We've been the DVSA. If you want to learn more about what we do, come and talk to us over lunch or any other time. Thank you very much.